Okay, we're gonna do a new chapter today. We're gonna do the energy chapter here today. It should be quite easy for you to follow through, Teresa, today because it's going to be absolutely new. Something that I think you may have touched a little bit in year 9, but in year 9, most likely you only learn about work done only, right? But today we'll introduce you to other forms of energy. There are many forms of energy here, but you only need to do calculation for these three forms of energy only. Okay. Then once you have understood how to use these three energies here, you're going to learn one principle today, which is very similar to the principle of conservation of momentum. But in this scenario here, it will be the principle of conservation of energy, right? Then once we learn that, we're going to learn about how power works, which I think everyone knows by now. Power should be energy over time. You guys definitely learned this before.
No.
No? No, man. Okay, now I'll be the first one to tell you about it. Then we're also going to learn about the efficiencies of energy, right? Basically, to be very efficient is to waste very little energy, right? For example, if you compare the olden day light bulbs, actually light bulbs are very inefficient ways to produce light, because for every let's say for every 100 joules that you put in right, what happens is, right, light bulbs, they actually have to heat up in the middle here, the filament part here, right? So it actually converts from electrical energy into heat energy into light energy, and in this process, obviously, a lot of energy is lost in this specific part here, which is the heat energy part. Then from then onwards, usually it's not very effective. We'll learn how to do the calculations on efficiency later on, right? And then finally, before we end the class, if we have enough time, we'll even talk about the energy resources here, guys. Energy resources are mainly separated into two main categories, which are either the renewable or the non-renewable. Renewable, obviously, like the name suggests, it means to say it's renewable. You'll never ever finish using it, right? But for non-renewable, it will be essentially things that are finite, finite resources such as fossil fuel, nuclear fuel, coal, oil, natural gases. All these are known as, non-renewable energy. Okay, then after that, these will be your exercises. Okay, guys, let's begin with today's chapter here. First and foremost, if we introduce the energy chapter, guys, when we introduce the energy chapters, I just want you to know that in this energy chapter, first and foremost, energy must be measured in joules, which is the units J here, right? Like joules, right? Joules, joules, right? Is the units to measure energy. Now, in your syllabus, there are only 3 main forms of energy that you must know of. And those 3 main forms of energy with calculation, the first one is known as work done, which definitely learned before in year 9, right? No, man. Have you guys learned this in year 9 before, Teresa?
You learn about the type of energy.
Huh?
No.
Oh, okay, never mind. Anyways, the 3 main forms of energy that has calculation in it is the first one, work done. The second one is going to be potential energy. I don't know if you guys learned this before or not at this point, right? And the final one here is basically going to be kinetic energy. Okay. Kinetic energy. Okay. Now, these 3 forms of energy are relatively more important simply because they have calculation in it. Let's go through one by one here and understand how do we use each and every one of these energies here. First and foremost, let's go into work done here. Now, work done has a very specific formula. Work done is equals to force multiplied by distance. And right off the bat, you'll notice that this formula here, right, kind of looks familiar with what we learned previously, right? Which formula does this form look like? Force times distance. 你一定有学过的. It was in the previous class. Previous class, maybe. Good. Not momentum, moments. Right. If you...
Force times. No. 那个是 impulse.
is force times distance, okay? Right, now, let me straight off the bat tell you right now, moment's formula is equals to force multiplied by distance, right? And work done, the formula is also known as force multiplied by distance. But the main difference between these two formulas is that if you think back about what a moment is essentially a turning effect, right? Like for example here, if today this is the force, this will be the distance that causes the seesaw to turn in this mark. This is essentially a moment mark, right? You'll notice that, guys, the force and distance for the moments are usually they are perpendicular to each other. Oh shit, 1 or 12, I remember. Okay, but the key thing here is for moments, you must understand that it is force times perpendicular distance to the pivot, right? Usually they will be in a perpendicular direction, right? But for work done, you must understand that work done, the only difference between them is that the force and distance, they must be parallel to each other. They must be parallel to each other. Okay? They must be parallel to each other. So what is an example of work done there? Let's say, for example, today, if let's say I am standing here, right, and I have a block here, this is the ground. I want to apply a certain force to it. Let's say I apply a force of 100 newtons, and this block, right, moves a certain distance. Let's say it moves 5 meters here. From here, I can calculate the energy I have exerted onto this block. Okay, and obviously in this scenario here, it will be 100 multiplied by 5, which will give me an exact units of 500 joules. It means to say, in order to push this block with 100 newtons by 5 meters, I have to exert a total of 500 joules to get the job done. Essentially, this is my work done to push the block. Okay, now let's just imagine a different scenario here today. Let's say today, right, this block is already against the wall already. Okay, and if I was standing here and I apply a force of, let's say, 1 million newtons, this is against the wall already. Do you think there will be any work done here? I'm pushing it like crazy. I'm sweating like crazy already. Is there any work done? Why not?
Okay. I don't know.
Not exactly. Teresa, what do you think? Is there any work done here?
No.
Why? Why is there no work done?
There is no more space for it to push it.
Good, very good. There is no space for it to move. Essentially, that means to say there was no distance covered by the box, right? Now, it doesn't matter how much force I can apply to it. I could apply like the God universal force onto this thing, right? But as long as it doesn't move, then there's considered to be no work done. I'll be exerting a lot of strength onto it. It's like trying to push the thing against the wall harder and harder, but essentially there will be no work done because there is no distance. What if I have an absolutely God-forsaken scenario? What if today I push this thing towards the right, and this box somehow moves upwards? Will there be any work done? Will there be any work done?
No.
Absolutely not. Why? Once again, is because just now I mentioned, right, for work to be done, the force and distance, they must be parallel to each other. If for some God-forsaken reason, suddenly you push like this here and then it moves this here, right? For sure, it doesn't work, right? I mean, it will not be considered work done. It will be considered more a miracle than the work done. Right. So from here, first thing you need to understand is that work done is force multiplied by distance, right? The distance and force must be parallel to each other. And it obviously is measured in joules as well. Okay, so this is the first thing you need to know. Okay, what about potential energy? Now, guys, by definition, potential energy's definition is the energy due to position. Okay, what do I mean by that? If you today, right, let's imagine today you're standing on the ground versus standing on top of a table. If you were to trip and then you fall down onto the ground versus you jump down from the table, which one will hurt more? Why?
It's position.
Good. This guy is definitely going to hurt more because of its position, right? Because of his position. And to be more exact, because of his position, in reality, this guy here actually has more potential energy, okay, compared to this guy here. Now, potential energy's formula is given as potential energy is equals to mass times gravity times height. Okay, so let's say, for example, today this guy here, right, is a total mass of 50 kg. And he is standing exactly 10 meters above the ground, right? Obviously, when you drop down from a higher spot, you're going to hurt more simply because more potential energy is converted to smash you down onto the ground, right? So if I were to do the calculation here, how much potential energy would I have while standing on top here? It would be basically 50 multiplied by 9.8 multiplied by 10 now, which will be somewhere around 5,000 joules, around roughly. It will be somewhere around 5,000 joules here. And because he has a higher position right now, he contains more potential energy. If he were to fall downwards here, naturally, it's going to, hurt more because more potential energy is converted into his pain. Understand? Okay. And finally, the last one here that we're going to talk about today. I mean, the final calculation we're going to talk about today before you do the exercise is basically going to be kinetic energy here. Now, kinetic energy has a very specific definition also. Kinetic energy is energy due to motion. Due to motion. And because it is energy due to motion, what happens is the faster you run, the more kinetic energy you're going to have. Let's say, for example, once again, today, me and you, we're having a race. Okay? So we're having a race. Let's just say, I run at 10 meters per second and you run at 20 meters per second. If both of us were to collide against a very hard brick wall here, who's going to hurt more? Obviously, you're going to hurt more, right? Why? Because, like I mentioned, kinetic energy is energy due to your motion, right? If today I want to be more specific, the reason why this guy will hurt more is because she has more kinetic energy. Kinetic energy has a formula, guys, of kinetic energy is equals to, once again, half mv squared. Okay. What is m? What is v? M is once again going to be your mass, right? And v is going to be your velocity. In this case here, the 10 and the 20. If I were to do the calculation for the 10 and 20, let's assume that both of us are the same mass. I'm definitely not 50 kg. What about you? Okay, so from here, if I were to calculate, it will be half times 50 multiplied by 10 square, which will give me somewhere around 100 times 50, 25,000. I think 25,000 joules.
Yeah.
Right. And then if I were to calculate the girl's kinetic energy, once again, kinetic energy is equals to half mv squared. It will be half multiplied by 50 multiplied by 20 square, right? Which in this case here will be like 400 times 50 times half. I think it'll be somewhere around 10,000 joules. Yeah, should be, if my calculation is correct. It should be 10,000. No, damn, my max is good. Right, 8 hour. Okay, so from here you can clearly see that even though, guys, here is one thing I want to highlight also. 什么25,000 sorry. 哎呀 sorry 我算错了这里 sorry Okay, so from here, right, guys, from here you can actually see even though I only double up my speed, guys, I only double up my speed, you can see that actually my kinetic energy is a multiple of 4, right? Why will it be a multiple of 4? Simply because of this square component here. When there is a square component, you double up the velocity, you actually quadruple up the kinetic energy here.
不想哈，
Okay?
不想。
你要拍下我的美丽的画画吗？ Okay, Teresa, you got any questions you want to ask with regards to these 3 formulas here?
No.
Good, excellent. If you have no questions, guys,
走。
copy everything down and do the 3 questions at the bottom. I mean the 6 questions at the bottom. Starting there.
Hell. That's very good. 那写外面的，写里面的外面。
当然写里面那个这个平方呢。 Let me know when you're done, Teresa. With the 6 questions at the bottom here.第4题错了
plan 的我又懂了，因为它是 km hour，
，convert it
到底是恐怖的
into meters per second
加乘起了，
啊？什么？
然后
讲一讲先，等一下解释给你听。km per hour 换去 meters per second，
乘
你有那么容易啊？要写啦。
那我不知道 ，Oh my god，
要写的
你就
OK。
把它的 distance 它有用
一个 km 有几多个 meter，一个 hour 有几多个 second？ 啊，160，一个 hour
1hour 乘以有60分钟，3600。
哦，so 300 km per hour 换去 meters per second 要怎么样？讲一讲。
3600，
就是乘哪里的乘？
20下来除3600再除，
怎么再除一些呢？
一
一个 km 有几多个 meter？ 哦 ，km 在上面吗？
啊，
你差不多对了，你差一个 set 就对了，刚才那个我给一个 set 做错。
对，km 换去就是1000嘛，1000加3600，
1000加3600，what the hell？ 你不要乱来哦喂。
300除3600，
然后呢？
再乘
乘几多
1000，
为什么是这样子？
因为
因为一个 km 啊，
太难下面，
对啦，
所以
都还没有想就跟我讲不会。
是一来了，所以是300除3乘以乘以1000，23.333，
对啊 ，square the number，
然后
然后做点 half mv square，
这样33吧，33，
那3.3 square it，原来是你可以不要着急嘛，你可以做好来。
不可以，假期也不用什么的，假期应该平时的，
怎么现在突然成个放假了？What holiday is it？
还在 finish，
哦，这样子啦。
然后更大的答案了，什么鬼哦？
对啊，write in standard form 吗？
我是
什么意思 ？standard form 你不知道咩？
哦，有面包味道，有那种定位啊。
standard form 哦，你不知道什么 times 10 的话，那个东西啊。
什么别的风？对呀，对呀，很快是什么？
那个号码几个？你刚才答的答案，这个东西你不会换去 standard form 嘛？我有没有答错嘞
143一遍的。
哦，要怎么换去 standard form？就是 like 我要 like 1.73乘15的话，我那个东西啊。
然后1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8啊。
哎。
讲人话。讲人话。
Teresa, which question are you doing right now, Teresa?
How do you convert km?
Sorry, what do you say?
How do you convert km per hour to?
Oh, okay, very good. Let me teach you right now. So if you see these kind of scenarios, right? First and foremost, you need to know that this is not the proper units lah, because obviously you know you're supposed to use half mv square, right? And from here, this v, like I mentioned here, it should be in meters per second, right? This velocity should be in meters. Oh, I didn't mention this. Yeah, I should. Just not in the drawing, it should be meters per second, So first and foremost, you ask yourself, if I were to make km per hour into a more easy to see format, it's essentially 300 km every hour, right? From here, if my ultimate end goal is meters per second, you ask yourself, 1 km is how many meters, Teresa?
1,000.
Yeah, so from here, I need to multiply by 1,000 first, right? Because I want to convert it into meters, right? Then, what about 1 hour? 1 hour has how many seconds?
3,600.
Good, excellent. From here, all you need to do is essentially just do this, right? This one here, if you multiply by 1,000, you'll get it in meters. And this one here, if you multiply by 360 seconds, sorry, if you multiply by 360, 3,600, you're going to get seconds, right? So from here, you should be able to get 83.3 meters per second. Try and see if you can get it or not.
Okay.
Then you convert it. Then after you convert it into meters per second already, you use the formula half mv square and you should be able to get the answer already. And change your answer to standard form, because you're going to get a damn big number.
Mm,
好累啊，去哪里玩了今天？
没有打球啊。练球。
除了打球
看戏。
哇，跟谁哪一个男朋友看戏？嗯，
没有。
不是。You really can get Teresa?
Yeah.
What's your final answer?
2.0825 times 10 to the power 6.
7 to the power of 6.
10 to the power 6.
10 to the power of 6. 中文你的查那么远呢？
我怎么会？
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope, you're wrong. Teresa, how do you get to the power of 6? You should get a raw number of 173472250. Do you get this raw number or not, Jose? Do you get this? It should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? It should be the power of 8 instead, right? Isn't it? What do you get?
I forgot to square my 8313.
Oh, you didn't square it. Supposed to be half mv square. Okay, what about the rest of the questions? Do you manage to do it? 5 and 6, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, check your answers. The first one here should be 1,500 joules. The second one should be 40 meters. The third one should be 1.8 times 10 to the power of 5. This one here should have been 1.7 times 10 to the power of 8. Then this one here, come on, your units there. 1. You should get 1.47 times 10 to the power of 5 joules. Beijing way. And this one you should get 490 joules. Did you get everything else correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good, excellent. Now we move on to the most important part of this chapter here, which is essentially the principle of conservation of energy. Now, this concept here is very similar to basically what you learn in momentum. In momentum, we state that principle of conservation of momentum states that the total momentum before collision is equals to the total momentum after collision. In this scenario here, the principle of conservation of energy basically states what Einstein stated, right? He stated that energy can never be created nor destroyed. It will always be conserved from one form to another. And in your syllabus, they love to convert potential energy into kinetic energy or vice versa. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let's imagine today right? If 我今天看不开了，对，我就是要死了。Right? If 我今天看不开了 by the way, when I say this, take it as absolutely a joke. Whoever that has depression, please go see a doctor. Don't, I don't want to die. I'm just for the memes, Right? So let's say 今天我看不开了 right? If 我看不开的话 I'll probably go to the highest place to die, right? Which is most likely in Malaysia, KLCC. Sorry, KL Tower. Yeah, KL Tower 啦。OK， 没有 parachute 要死了。
没有，跳 parachute 不要开伞啊。
还要拿 parachute 不要开啊。No, OK, so let's imagine 今天我站在这边 at 我最高峰的时候 or is it 我最低峰因为要死了 right? So let's imagine today I'm standing on top of here. My potential energy would essentially be at 100%, right? Because I'm standing at the highest point of my life, or maybe the lowest point, because and since I haven't jumped right, I haven't got the courage to jump yet, right? So what happens is my kinetic energy is obviously 0% because I haven't moved yet, right? But as soon as I take the leap of faith, right, what happens here is I'm going to start flying without wings, essentially, right? And when I start to fly without wings here, obviously at this point my kinetic energy won't be 0 anymore, right? How much do you think my kinetic energy will be? Yeah, it will be half long. Why? Because if you think about it in terms, of the conversion, 50% of my potential energy is lost already because I would have essentially lost half of my height, right? If let's say this is HD, which will be half of my height, right? Right. So it means to say, when I lost half my potential energy, it was actually all converted into kinetic energy. So at this point here, maybe I'll have 50%. Right. Can follow so far. Right. Then 0.00001 second before I land onto the ground and meet Satan himself. Right. What happens is I will have lost all my height now. And if I lost all my height here, then obviously my potential energy would be 0% now. And all that kinetic energy would have been, all the potential energy would have been converted into kinetic energy, right? So if you think about it logically, where do you think I'm flying faster? At the midpoint or almost to the ground? Flying the fastest speed, or which one do you think I'm flying the fastest speed? Not the distance over time. Just look at it from the kinetic energy point of view, right? Why? Because if you think about it, at this point here, I only have 50% kinetic energy. So maybe here I'm only flying at 10 meters per second only, right? But at this point here, I have 100% kinetic energy, and no way here is going to be 10 meters per second also, right? No way, right? Will this be possible? No way, right? So at least minimum, I'm going to be flying at 15 meters per second, or minimum, right? Right. So this is one of a very, very good example of how potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. Okay. Right. So let's do some calculation here. Let's say today, right, KL Tower is exactly 100 meters tall. Okay, good. And then let's say today I'm exactly 50 kg here, right? From these two information, I can already calculate my potential energy, right? Because from potential energy's formula was,
February.
yes, mgh, right? So in this case here, it'll be 50 multiplied by, it's supposed to be 9.8, but for ease of calculation, let's just put it as 10, right? And the height of 100, right? So from here, I know that my potential energy at this point would be 50000 joules, for 50,000 joules. And at this point here, my kinetic energy will still be 0 because I haven't jumped yet, right? I haven't taken a leap of faith. If I think about it really logically here, since I lost 50% of my height, obviously I'll be 50% of potential energy loss, right? Where did it go? Obviously, it went to the kinetic energy here, lor. From this information itself, I can actually calculate how fast he is falling already. How do I do that?
The last one, like my kinetic.
What's the formula for kinetic energy again?
I mean 1/2 max velocity square.
Good, right?
So once that is fine.
Yeah, so essentially I'm looking for V, right?
2 and divide that.
I mean, if I do it more simply, right, a more simplicity way of doing it, it will be like substituting 25,000 into here because it's this, right? Right, is equals to, yeah, don't include the units when you're doing calculation. So it's equals to half multiplied by 50 multiplied by V square, right? From here, if I do algebra, this thing move up, this thing move down, right? It'll be basically going to be like 25,000 multiplied by 2 divided by 50 is equals to V square, right? Right, then ultimately, if I want to find V, yeah, if I want to find V, will be square root 25,000 multiplied by 2 divided by 50 lah. Right, press this in the calculator, you most likely get 100 meh, 不可能啦。Square root 啦，要对吗？31, right? It will be 31 point something lah. My speed here will be 31.6 meters per second, right? Okay. So, guys, what if I want to calculate the speed here? What do I do? Can you guys? Okay, before I ask you guys to find the speed, okay or not, Teresa? You understand what's going on or not? You have any questions you want to ask?
No.
Okay, can you both try to find the speed at this point here using almost the exact same working? Almost, but right now the kinetic energy improved by 100% now. I mean, improved by another 50% now, from 50% to 100%. Wow, very good. You're supposed to get 44.7. Try and see if you can get this number or not. If you cannot, let me know. And when you can, let me know also.
Okay.
You got it? 44.7?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Essentially, it's supposed to be 50,000 is equals to, once again, half 50 V square, right? And once again, it'll be like 50,000 multiplied by 2 divided by 50 square root, and you'll end up with 44.7 meters per second. Right. So this is one example of how we convert. This is one example of how we convert potential energy into kinetic energy, right? What about kinetic energy into potential energy? How will it be like? Potential energy to kinetic energy. I want you to imagine, guys, today I have a gun. A very poorly illustrated gun, but it's a gun nonetheless, right? When I shoot a bullet here, what happens is this bullet got damn a lot of speed, right? Let's say it starts off with 100 meters per second. Okay, and let's say for ease of calculation, this bullet is 1 kg. How high will it travel?
100.
What do I do? What do I do? How do I? If this bullet has an initial speed of 100 meters per second and it is 1 kg, how high will this bullet fly? How high will this bird fly? What do I do?
and you put like
怎么样做? What do you find first?
find the 它总共要有多少
Some more you need to what do I want to find first? Yeah. What energy is it?
this is the last one it's one over
Kinetic energy.
Yeah.
Right. So you find the kinetic energy first, which is half mv squared here. From here, it will be half multiplied by 1 multiplied by 100 square, right? Which is going to be, I think, 5,000.
yeah
It'll be 5,000 joules.
oh
Okay. With this 5,000 joules, how do I find the height?
divide
Divide what?
by 8 yeah by the kg
Yeah. Because from here, potential energy is equal to mgh. In this case, I'll substitute this here, right? It'll be 55,000.
divide by 1 divide
Yeah,
by
is equals to 1 multiplied by 9.8
yeah
multiplied by h, right? From here, my h will be 510 meters. Okay, this guy here will be able to travel 510 meters. Okay, Teresa, you understand this part?
Yes.
Good. Now, I want you to once again, nothing to copy, straight away do the calculation on these two boxes here, right now. Read the questions, sir. You're supposed to answer 1, 2, 3, and then A, B, C, D here.
Hello，做完了吗？
是冰箱的那个。这个
对呀。转啊。
不是啊，
Say why? It's supposed to be why,
啊，
It's supposed to explain why there is a difference
因为
because of the difference in the height 啊。
你看很多女生太高，这个应该 boy
Give another position.
why？哎，是不能，
Ah,
对，
back is still potential energy, right? Bruh.
嗯，
Teresa, which question are you at right now?
The second one.
The second one, this one?
Yeah.
Okay. You have 5 more minutes to attempt everything. Then we'll discuss the answers. 对了完，我期待你拿一个回来耶，
真的很差，我就不
很
会，
惨去死
我不会。
啊！
因为那 explanation 好多，我 statement 然后 explanation 不会讲诶，他们教过
什么 statement 你不会咩？去他们那里有那个 basic
什么
concept 的吗？
statement，
什么 statement？
就是不懂啊，就跟我看那个跟我什么要什么 statement 我忘记了，我就是讲那个 explanation，都不懂什么鬼啊，是不是教
Paper 6来的是马有 statement 有
有
explanation。
对有的不是
哦，Paper 6不用怕了，谁的？
有教，
我也是没有讲，
回头
不用怕的啦，那个 easy。那个 Paper 6就不要管它先，
哪边了没？
不会 fail 吧？怎么样会 fail？
是啊。圈题有一些是你给我那个在外面有错啊，一点点漏，主题漏，你没有用过啊？
你有做完吗？我给你那个 paper。
有到一两年的话，对不对？我累了是这样。对啦，应该是低报啊，或者是低落。
Seriously？
有他别的 T 头叫读 explanation 哦，然后他别的 explanation 然后是分不好分。
OK，你拿个 A 请你喝苦吧 ，OK？
我不要，我想想。
你一定要，没有拿 S。
这个应该是没有那个。
不可以 C，D 都还可以
应该是你啊。
，C 我就打你。读了那么多书还拿 C，不如不要读。不可能啊
啊，我不会拿飞了哦。
，fail 是不可能的，OK。
我就是红色绿。不打飞了。
Okay, Teresa, can you check your answers? Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, can you check your answers first? Your potential energy and kinetic energy both is 49,000 joules here. Your speed should be 44.3 meters per second, and this one should be 62.6 meters per second. Do you get these three correct or not first?
Yeah.
Okay, good, excellent. Your foundation is actually quite strong also, if you got all this correct. That means to say, yeah, anyways, number 2 here, your A is supposed to be potential energy, obviously, right? Then your second one here is obviously supposed to be position Z. Your C1 is supposed to be 588 joules. And then your C2 should be 352.8 joules. Then finally, D is because of the difference in height. Do you get anything wrong from here?
No.
Oh, good. Everything correct as well. Excellent. And the final thing we're going to do today before we end class, most likely we'll continue efficiency next week because we only have 15 minutes left. Yeah. We're going to talk about the difference between power and energy. Now, first and foremost, I want to highlight that a lot of schools, they like to teach this, okay? Power is equals to work done over time. A lot of schools, they like to teach this. Now, this is not wrong, guys. This is not wrong, but it's basically like saying human beings are boys. You know, boys can be human beings, right? But human beings are not only boys, right? human beings to be girls also, what, right? And then in the new trend right now, it could be trans, the Chinese as well. But anyways, from here, guys, I want you to first and foremost understand that power is not only limited to work done. In reality, power's formula is actually energy over time. Okay, it should be energy over time here. And this energy could be any form of energy, guys. This energy could be work done. It could be potential energy. It could also be kinetic energy here. Okay, it's not only limited to work done. You know why I don't like to teach this in class is because when I tell the students that power is equal to work done over time, a lot of students, they will only fixate that, oh, in order to find power, I need to have the force and distance and time. And then if they give any other different scenario, they cannot do it already. Like for example, if today the question gives you mass and velocity, right? And then they give you time, then it cannot be work done, right? Because in this scenario here, it will be kinetic energy over time, right? And alternatively, if they give you the mass and the height, it will be mgh over time, right? Right. So don't fixate your mind only on work done over time, guys. Power can be any energy. In fact, later on, you'll even learn that this could be heat energy as well, right? And even electrical energy, but that's for later on. Okay, but for now, you just need to know that power is supposed to be energy over time. The units for power is supposed to be watts. It is because it is joules per second. Okay? Now, if you think about power, guys, there is application here as well. Power is the reason why when you walk up the stairs versus running up the stairs, you feel more tired, guys. If you ever try to run up the same flight of stairs, a lot of students, they'll tell me that it's because they use more energy to run up compared to walking. That is not exactly true also. The real reason is because you use much more power when you're running. So let's imagine today, right? Let's imagine today you have a flight of stairs, right? And let's say you is once again 50 kg here, right? It doesn't matter if you run up the stairs or you slowly walk up the stairs, you are still using the same amount of energy to carry yourself upwards, right? But when you run up the stairs, maybe you use 5 seconds, right? But if you walk up the stairs, maybe you use 10 seconds. Let's just say the total energy to, let's say here, the height here is, let's say, ease of calculation, once again, 10 meters. The amount of energy you need to bring yourself up can be calculated using MGH, right? Which is going to be 50 multiplied by, yet again, ease of calculation and 10. This is supposed to be 9.8, but I'm just using ease of calculation to get 10 only, right? And from here, the amount of energy you need to gain in order to go up is going to be 5,000 joules, right? But if you run up the stairs, the power that you use is going to be 5,000 divided by 5, which is 1,000 watts. Comparatively, if you use 10 seconds to run up, it's going to be 5,000 divided by 10, right? Which is only 500 watts. You can see that from running and walking, the amount of power you exert is going to be different, regardless of however, you're still using the same amount of work to bring yourself upwards, right? But because your power is more, you feel much more tired, guys. Very important concept here. All right. So if you look at the statements here, okay, power is the rate at which work is done. Guys, whenever you see the word rate, I want you to always remember it's something over time. In this case here, they say rate at which work is done, right? It means to say work done over time, or energy is energy over time here. Whenever you see the word rate here, it's basically something over time. Something over time. Don't know whatever it is, but it's something over time. Okay? Of course, the faster you do the same work, the more power is released. The slower you do the same work, the less power is released here. Okay? Copy rating now. The units for power is watts. And do the 3 questions at the bottom.
做完了吗？
你又再次可以看我手边了，嘿嘿。
对，teriyaki，喜欢 teriyaki。
Teriyaki bowl，
对，
算了。
嗯，
Oh. Oh, by the way, guys, you'll notice that question 1 and 2 is quite easy to do, but question 3 is
有没
a,
有
li
大
a little bit of a brain teaser.
哦哦，嗯，
Come on,
我刚才
convert this into force lah. The mass, how do you convert mass into force? Times 9.8.
我看到我用到5管，
Hence, ease of calculation 才可以做到。考试时要用9.8的。
我还好，就可以0.8。No way. 那不是Bitcoin
Distance should be meters, huh?
就是2.8，差不多是
哪里只是0.12来哦？有35个 step 呢。
Oh my god！ 然后是2乘31，哦，把它放去Max，
这个不可以换去 mesh，因为它 cost 是这样子去。你试试看先。Write down all the formulas that you know. What do they want from you first?
有没有到？
嗯
怎么学那种的？
嗯。
So multiple potential energy, value, energy, like so what else is come up for you? How electrons great. Okay.
So, how? What do they want from you? What can you do with these formulas?
work done 得了吗？
一定要用 work done。
一定要 work done
要这个 question 要用 work done。
How you know the distance? 10 meter.
还有给你 speed 吗？写下来。What's the formula for?
Distance over time.
嗯哼。
Distance over time. so 我在哪里 day？ 但是我把 time 移过去。好对。
OK 啊，猜答案给你啊。Okay, first and foremost, Teresa, I don't know if you did this also or not. This is supposed to be converted into meters first, which is 0.12 meters. Then after that, it has 35 steps. So from here, work done is equals to force times distance, right? Your force would have been converting this into weight, into force first, because W is equals to mg. So in this case, it's supposed to be 50 multiplied by 9.8, which will give you 400多啊490啊 Newton. This would have been your force. Then your distance would have been this multiplied by 35. So from here, you're supposed to get 490 multiplied by 0.12 multiplied by 35. And you'll get 2058 啦，那么奇怪了，那么奇怪了。真的哦。Okay. Okay. Then after that, from here, you're supposed to get the power of energy over time. In this case here, you already found the energy, 2058, divided by the time, which was 10 seconds. So you get 205.8 watts. Okay. All right. Then after that, 这个很容易哦。You're asked to find power 嘛。You have what? You have the force, you have the time, you have the distance already, right? So power is equals to energy over time. In this case here, it will be work done over time, which will be force times distance over time, which is 890 multiplied by 12 divided by 32. And you'll get 485.5. 485.5 watts here. Right? And then the third one, most likely, do you manage to find an answer for the third one, Teresa?
No.
Okay, now first and foremost, this here is a trick question. It's basically understanding, it's a test to see how well you understand your formulas. First and foremost, you're supposed to know that this is speed, right? Or velocity, which is distance over time here. And you're given this formula here. You're given force information and you're asked to find power. Right? Once again, power is equals to energy over time. In this case here, since you're given force, it most likely should be the work done formula, which is force times distance over time. But from here, you're supposed to understand that distance and time is essentially going to be speed, right? Or velocity. So in this case here, it's going to be force times speed, which is ultimately going to give you 500 multiplied by 10, which is going to give you 5,000 watts here. You understand? Okay, Teresa, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, yeah, that'll be it for today because she needs to go for the AdMaths class already. We'll continue this chapter next week, guys.
Wait.